Hey, everybody, this is Tom Sega from Duluth Pack, and this is the Duluth Pack podcast, Leader of the Pack. And we certainly have a leader today that we're going to be interviewing. Our guest today is Donny Pearson. Donny is an entrepreneur extraordinaire, and he is the owner and founded Boomerang Energy and is a partner with his brothers in Budget Blinds Company. Donny, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
It's great to have you. We're going to dive right in here because you have a great story to tell, and we're going to learn a whole bunch about you. But for our listeners, I actually don't know Donny personally, but Donny's father was the first supervisor that I ever had in my first job. In fact, the first day on my 16th birthday, your dad was my supervisor and trained me that day, Dale Pearson, at Bridgman's Restaurant in Duluth, Minnesota. So pretty cool, full circle here that I'm interviewing his son. So this is going to be a blast.
Yeah, it's the Tom Sega name has been mentioned in our household for many years. So I've heard some stories. They've been great.
Oh boy, we had some fun. And you know what? One thing your father taught me early on, and your dad's only 2 years older than me, but he taught me was accountability. We had some great conversations back then as a couple of young fellas working in a restaurant and going to college as we worked our way through then, and accountability. And I'm sure that really hits a vein with you growing up in his household. So let's dive right in, and we'll get full circle to all these questions, Donny. Tell us all about, and all of our listeners, where are you from? Where did you go to school? And then what did you major in college to become this entrepreneur you are?
Yeah, so you mentioned my dad, and that's kind of where my story begins, right? After he graduated, he's a Duluthian. He went to Minnesota Duluth for his undergraduate, and then the Maine U down in the cities for his master's. And he actually had a degree in engineering. So his first project was the paper mill here in Duluth. And after that, we kind of set off our family on the road, and we moved a lot for many years. So I was actually born down in Grenada, Mississippi, while my dad worked on a job there. And from there, we moved to Maine, to Alabama, to Ohio, to Atlanta, to South Carolina, and eventually made it back here to Minnesota. And so I grew up here for the most part in Minnesota after spending kind of my early years in the Southeast, and ended up going to college here as well at St. Scholastica. And I actually went to school for computer information systems because kind of going back to my dad was an entrepreneur himself and moved back here to Duluth to start a company that was in the healthcare and information technology space. And as kind of computers were becoming a more and more prevalent thing in just the work environment in general, my dad encouraged myself and my brothers too, hey, go get your undergrad in computer related field. And if you want to specialize afterwards, you can do that with an advanced degree. So we, myself and my older brother, who's only 18 months older than me, actually went to Scholastica. We did a lot of post-secondary classes in high school. So I kind of caught up to him. And I graduated from Scholastica when I was only 19 because I had done so many college credits while I was in high school. So coming out of school, it's still pretty young. I kind of looked around for a while. At that age, you kind of, you're trying to find, I think, something adventurous in my mind, right? Was what I was after. At one point, I was a candidate for the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. I was thinking I'm going to go military. Then I looked into the FBI. I mean, just trying to find something, that you think is going to fulfill you a bit. And actually, what I ended up doing instead was I found my wife and I got married. And at that point, a lot, your worldview changes a bit. So out of school, though, I went and I started working for my dad's company that he had here in Duluth, and kind of trying to find my way in what I wanted to do in business. At this point, I decided, okay, I'm the adventurous stuff, military, FBI, that kind of stuff. That's kind of out the window at this point. I've got a future I'm trying to build here with my wife in Duluth. I spent time in kind of tech support for our company. I spent time in contracting, marketing, and sales. I kind of, popped around a bit. got a variety of experiences, I would say, in just general business function, and watched a company grow, which was a tremendous experience, even from a young age, I would say. I remember the lean years of, having a dad who's an entrepreneur, and you got to pay your employees first, and you're still trying to get a company to profitability. And there's times where, dad's not getting paid for quite a while, and, you're trying to get by. And I have 3 brothers. So, my parents have 4 kids that they're trying to bring up and take care of. And so you see, a lot of people see kind of the Elon Musks of the world, perhaps, and think, oh, that's entrepreneur, right? I mean, you get there, you got it made, and the path is hard. And I got to see that from a young age. And yet I think it's still, my dad always encouraged us to make your own pie. Don't ask for a piece of someone else's pie, make your own pie. And so, working with him in his company gave us a lot of visibility into, what does it take, and what kind of individuals does it take actually to build a company? Because my dad, one of the things that some of the stuff people have probably heard from all different sorts of people in their lives, but a lot of my stuff comes right from my dad. And he said, you try to hire people that are better than you. That's how you build a team. So, you're looking to, this person does marketing better, this person does sales better, this person's relationally better, all types of things. You're just trying to build the right team around you. So we got to, witness that all. And especially once I started working with him, witness it firsthand. And it really started to give me an idea of, what does it take? Now, I didn't come out and start, just start businesses right out of school. I mean, we used to walk people's dogs and, babysit and stuff when we were kids, but that's just where you're trying to make money so you can go to the movies or whatever.
Exactly.
But it wasn't until I had, specifically on the Boomerang front, I had one of my coworkers, his son was a power lifter and really liked mixing his own supplements. And he wanted to start producing some of his own products. And so he kind of was, deep in the biochemistry side of things and how do these ingredients work together and that. And I said, well, hey, I'm really used to the side of, I can source, I can find manufacturing facilities, I can put kind of, a bid together to go out and try to find the right locations to make it. I can help you, kind of put the business ends together, help you get, kind of a marketing plan in place, build the brand, establish kind of those types of details that I'd had familiarity with at this point. So we did that, and that's kind of how I got into this initially this supplement space. And as we were working in that space, I got the idea. My wife and I were starting to have kids, and I had people telling me, oh man, you better get the coffee ready. You're not going to sleep much when that baby comes. And all I could think was I don't drink coffee. I've never been able to get the taste, and I'm not a coffee drinker. And I was like, oh, but I've have this background now in kind of this biochemistry and what's good for you, what's bad for you. And we find out our first is going to be a little girl. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't like any of these energy products on the market. And I don't like those brands. I mean, I can't, when my little girl starts to grow up, I don't want her seeing me, drinking some of these brands that, kind of objectify women, I would say in a lot of their marketing. Right. So we're like, oh man, this just doesn't work. So I told my business partner at the time, I said, hey, I think there's a room to just create a really simple energy product. People overdo it. They put too much stuff in it. They market it too extreme. I think we could kind of go, energy drinks seem to be going more and more extreme. I think we could backtrack and go the other way with it. People don't need, more and more extreme. They just need kind of healthier lifestyles and something that they could feel good about consuming, when you maybe do lose a few hours of sleep at night or something, and you're not going to be worried about the effects of it, or the brand that you're supporting. So that's how Boomerang came around. Initially, the name was just a placeholder in a strat plan that I put together. So
how did you come up with the name Boomerang? Because I did a little bit of research on it, and it seems like it more happened than a completely thought out plan on the name.
Yeah, it really was. It was at one point I was putting together a strat plan, and I was trying to put together, a product development plan to say, hey, what's the future look like? What are we building towards? And I was just putting down some different variations of products we could do. And I thought, oh, a simple energy product. And honestly, it was just kind of a inspiration of the moment type thing because, boomerangs, some of them, if you throw them right, they go out and they come back. And so it was like I said, initially just a placeholder in a slide deck that became, when we were like, wow, we should really maybe, branch off with this concept and start a new business just based on this energy brand. And we looked it up, and boomerangenergy.com was available, and said, oh, wow, that, I would have thought someone would have named it. Seems to fit really good with this concept, this type of product. But no one had. So yeah, it was pretty random, but it's worked, and it ties together really well with a lot of our messaging now.
It's interesting because I can really relate to that, because I did not drink coffee till my children were born. And there were no such things as energy drinks way back then, right?
Right.
And so guess what? I forced myself to like coffee, and now I can't get up in the morning without it, right?
Yep.
But it was children, and I don't think you and I are abnormal in that.
No.
And so we're talking 2016 when all of this is starting to amalgamate, to come together.
Yeah. Yep. So it was 2016 when we actually said, I actually, broke off from the supplement product line that we had done and incorporated Boomerang Energy Inc. and said, okay, I'm going to take this and we're going to focus on this and just this energy drink. And we actually did it initially, though, as a powder, as a supplement, a ready to drink or ready to mix powder, not ready to drink yet. And we were solely on Amazon. And initially, we were trying to actually sell into the gaming market primarily. So we had, and kind of the thought behind that was, wow, people, we had gone and done some market studies and stuff to see, wow, look at all these people who are considering themselves gamers, and so we thought, hey, this is a great way just to reach a big audience with some messaging. These people are online, as far as trying to get just digital advertising out there and such. And what we actually found, though, is a lot of that demographic didn't really care about, the quality or the health aspect of what they were drinking. It was more, does it taste good? And what we were selling was something that honestly was more towards the lines of a lighter taste, than kind of the punch you in the face type drink that a lot of these energy drinks are. That flavor just, you can smell it when you crack that can, and it just about knocks you out. So what we found was we actually caught on a lot more with young professionals. You had the nurses, the EMTs, the quote unquote desk jockeys, people like that who were like, hey, I care about what I'm consuming. And I care about that brand. I grew up with energy drinks. I don't have that negative connotation, that, for example, previous generations might have had. And I'm more discerning. So we're like, okay, this is where we're at. This is the angle that we need to push even further. And I would say that that's kind of some advice I would give to, anyone who's looking to start something. Just because you have an idea off the bat and you think who's going to buy it, sometimes that changes. And you got to be ready. I mean, you got to be agile and nimble when you start out to say, hey, I think I know who this is going to appeal to. But if it catches on somewhere else, you got to be ready to, step on the gas and take it that direction.
You are so right there. And that whole sentence, that whole paragraph that you just stated is so entrepreneurial that it's crazy, because things shift in different directions for entrepreneurs every day, and they have to be ready to shift with it. And instead of fighting it, getting on board and saying, how can we capitalize upon this? Right. And I know one of the things that you did, and if you could explain, is part of your angle was, we're not just going to add more high fructose sugar and more of the bad stuff. We want to take an angle and say, okay, we have some professionals here. We have people in the healthcare industry, things like that maybe need a boost because they work night shifts or they work long shifts or what have you. But we want to try to find something that's actually, forget not bad for you, actually good for you.
Right. Yeah. We came at it from the approach of kind of a less is more approach. And that's from some of our background in the supplement space, where it was kind of a lot of, where's the next big ingredient coming from? What's the next big thing, right? What's the next big thing for pump? What's the next big thing to build back that muscle mass? And a lot of it, honestly, is they use recycled pharmaceuticals, right? So, I mean, things that these companies created and didn't get FDA approval. And so they, kind of chuck it to the supplement space, and then they test it out in these mixes that they give to different people. And it honestly is kind of the Wild West. And so what we actually made the determination to do at one point was to say, all right, we're going to make this a canned beverage. And we're going to do that so we can really align on these health goals that we have for this product and the brand. Because going to a ready to drink, a canned product allowed us to shed even more of the unnecessary ingredients that you have to have in a lot of these powders just to keep them powder. When you're talking a powder product, and we'd get people who would say, oh, well, my powder's clumping and stuff. The more natural your product is, the more likely it is to clump. These, the way that they keep these supplements, really granular and stuff is actually by adding a bunch of stuff to them. So we're like, all right, we're gonna really go hard at this health angle, because it's it's the road we started on, and we only started with the supplement because that's what we knew, and our goal was to get to this canned product. And we actually leveraged, just talking to a lot of the local microbreweries in the Duluth area and stuff like that to say, hey, how are you manufacturing? Who are you manufacturing with? Who's the right partner? I mean, we actually did build a network of people who could help us, convert our product and do it the right way. And now, get to the point where we're doing it with FDA, inspected facilities and approved ingredients and stuff, and really getting to this, this ultimate echelon of health that we were after. And like I said, that it was that kind of less is more. We wanted less ingredients in a product, and we wanted to use, less of certain ingredients and then certain forms of certain ingredients, so that we were actually using ingredients that were native to the body. So it's kind of the elevator pitch with our energy blend is we have 6 ingredients. 3 of them are herbal ingredients: ginseng, green tea, and the caffeine is actually coming from coffee beans. So 3 herbal ingredients that have been used for literally millennia, by humankind. And then you've got 3 ingredients that are aminos, the taurine, the tyrosine, the carnitine, that are actually produced. Your body can produce all 3 of those with the right diet. So all we're doing is we're giving you 3 herbals that have been used for thousands of years, and then 3 natural native aminos that your body can produce, that we're just giving in a certain dosage to you at a certain time. And that's it. I mean, that's all we're doing, to give you that little boost you need. So you're not going to drink it and go lift a car. I mean, it's not one of those where you're, it's in the cartoons, right, where your heart's like pumping out of your shirt. So we did it to say, hey, it's not that complicated to give people just that kind of, kick in the pants they need to get through their 2 o'clock, right? And we can do it in a way that when you drink this, I mean, the gut rot with the typical energy drink is horrible. I mean, if you chug something, a 16 ounce of, I can't name brands, but you're not gonna feel good about it after that high comes off. And so what we said is, one of the main things is we want you to feel good while you're drinking it and feel good after you drink. And we were actually really kind of hit the nail on the head. And a lot of that comes down to how we sweeten the product. And this is kind of, once we get past the energy phase, this is how we, tell, when we get to the details, how we sell people kind of on the next stage of the product. But we use 4 different natural sweeteners, and one of them is non-GMO cane sugar. And the reason for that is we wanted to put some of that in. The palate of people these days is really attuned to table sugar, to cane sugar. And we're like, if it tastes bad, no one's going to drink it anyways. But there's also, the simple form of sugar in there, glucose, which the body does break down and use for energy really quick. So we said, all right, we're going to put these 7 grams of this non-GMO cane sugar in there to help you get a good taste, but also to give that initial little push with the glucose. But we're not doing too much of the fructose, which is the other part of sugar. And you mentioned, no high fructose corn syrup. We didn't take any shortcuts like that. And then we're using erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol, monk fruit extract.
What is that?
So it's a little bit newer. It's not a sugar alcohol. It's actually it is plant based, and we're using stevia as well. So the reason we're doing 4 is that any one sweetener has negative side effects in high quantities, right? I mean, too much sugar and you have too many calories, right? Too many calories and your body can't break them down fast enough, and you're storing it, right? So you're adding to your fat content, and then you start talking about, with like erythritol, with a sugar alcohol. You're causing too much gut discomfort if you add too much of that. So sugar, and that's one of the risks of any sugar alcohol, using too much of it. I mean, they're high, really low calorie, but they can also cause a lot of gut discomfort in high quantities. So we don't want to do too much of that. And it's the same with stevia. Stevia in too high quantities can cause a lot of gut discomfort. So we actually did a balanced blend of these sweeteners. And we've had people even in the industry come back to us and say, why do you use 4 sweeteners? Because most of the time, a lot of these products are coming from, a big beverage corp, and they've got some marketing team on it, and they just say, hey, this is the hot sweetener right now. That's what we're going to sweeten it with. And they just do as much as they got to do to pass, taste tests. Whereas we came into it and said, hey, there's more science to it than that. There's a balance to, what actually feels good in your body, what tastes good. And we wanted to make sure we were, taking a calculated approach to that. And that's what we did with this product. So not only can we get a good taste out of it, but we also make sure that afterwards, you're not feeling like you need to go, to the bathroom for a while.
Right. I mean, it's interesting as I listen to this and as you're talking about this, Donny, is we've all had that gut rot after having, whether it's an energy drink or too much soda and all that,
right.
It just sits there in the bottom of your gut. So you found a better way to skin the cat, achieving the goals you wanted. But how can we do this differently? How can we do it in a better way for our consumer? And it's interesting because the next thing I was going to mention is, your tagline is called Real Good Energy.
Right.
And all the things you said kind of lead into saying real good energy.
Yeah. And that's kind of the, we try to define what we're doing, product wise is, we're using real ingredients. We're using good ingredients. And obviously the end game is energy. So yeah, we've it's kind of how we define the products. And then obviously we have, more interesting taglines like get your energy back and things that vibe with the Boomerang part. But yeah, that real good energy language we really did to say, hey, you can look at our products, you can read that, and you can, right away get the feel of what's in this product.
Donny, as a entrepreneur, so it's 2016, you're getting all this going, you go from the powders, you start looking at working with bottlers to can Boomerang energy drinks. And as entrepreneurs, we're up against obstacles every day. You grew up with that, seeing that. You mentioned earlier that, hey, the entrepreneur is the last one to get a paycheck. Everyone else gets taken care of first. And you got to pay the government and you got to pay the lights and the rent and all your bills and all that stuff. And you're a small bootstrapped company starting, because that's really where most entrepreneurs start, is they're all bootstrapped and it's all hands on deck, roll your sleeves up and do every job. And then you guys get up and get rolling and you have a marketing plan that, we're going to get into a bunch of events and we're going to do this, and it's a way to get in front of people and all that. And you guys are thrown just like most businesses, but on a small startup, kind of a wild pitch called COVID from nowhere that obviously changes everything about your marketing plan.
Yeah, it was, and it actually hit it, I would say, I mean, you could call it the worst of time, but again, things happen and you have to adapt, right? There's no use complaining about it, because our RTD, our ready to drink, our canned product actually came to market in March of 2020. So we were, we had been working on the R&D for months, getting the production cycles, lining up and connecting all the dots on that. We get our product, we're ready to go, and then everything starts to shut down. And it was, like you mentioned, you from an event perspective, right? I mean, we were looking forward to kind of getting boots on the ground and getting out there and sampling it and talking to people about it. And all that stuff was just cut off. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, do we push harder online now? Do we go and start to do more digital? And honestly, we did what we could. And it was, fortunately, if you've got a product that is good and you believe in it, and I think that's a big part of it. If you can do it and people can talk to you and they realize, wow, that genuine, that authenticity will come across. And so we were able to get, placement in a few locations and start selling it and start getting people aware of it. Not nearly as much as we had planned. And I would say even now COVID impacts us. I mean, we have, we have, brokers working with different larger retailers around the country, and some of those retailers have just frozen entire categories of their stores. And we just ran into one where they said, we're freezing beverage. And a lot of it's coming down to supply chain, and whether or not they even have the staff to be doing the line reviews and planning the rollouts and stuff that they usually do. So we still see it today, which 2 years later you'd be like, okay, really? But yeah, sometimes in some cases even more so than back in 2020.
Are you seeing supply chain issues from the standpoint of your bottlers saying, hey, we're having trouble getting aluminum, we're having trouble getting plastic for the wrapping of the cases of product, or we're having problems getting, any of the supplies that are needed, the ingredients for you?
Yeah, aluminum has been the big one. And I know anyone who's kind of, tapping commodities markets worldwide would be aware of, what's going on with aluminum. Now, a lot of those canning companies, the big canning companies like Ball and Arda and stuff like that, the ones who are producing for essentially everyone out there, they've started to bring new facilities online, and they actually started doing that a while ago, 18 months or so ago. So you're hoping things kind of catch up at some point, but it takes a while to bring those online. So yeah, I would say it's even aluminum stuff that's impacting us now. We actually have our second flavor that we were trying to launch earlier this year, and now it'll instead come out in a couple months here. And most of that delay is based purely around aluminum. Ingredient wise, we haven't seen too much because again, our goal with the product was to go really simple and natural. So there's not a whole lot that we wait on, and usually it's pretty abundant because we're not doing anything that's too processed at all, or too hard to get or anything like that. It's pretty common stuff. So we've been fortunate on that front. But yes, aluminum definitely is kind of the hot topic in our space right now.
So Donny and folks, we're talking to Donny Pearson, founder of Boomerang Energy Company. And we're talking about some curveballs right now that have been thrown through COVID in a startup business, and having to really be meldable to major changes. And one of the questions I would have is, so you've changed on your marketing on how you had to brand and market the company, and now it looks like we're going to start opening up this summer more, and there's going to be more outdoor events. And I know that was some of your original marketing. Are you going to go back towards some of that, or is it like, hey, we're really successful doing what we're doing now, and so we don't have to go back to what some of our original marketing plans were?
I think it's somewhat a hybrid, because what we've been able to do even during COVID is actually identify some partners that we didn't really expect to bring on. And they've opened us up to kind of new audiences and demographics that we can actually appeal to with events like that. I mean, we're talking whether it's obstacle races that people like to do. I know there's a variety of them out there, and get involved in events like that, or 5Ks or mountain biking, and lots of different outdoor things that we could do, that now we've been opened up to even more by some new partners. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of a hybrid. I think, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about as an entrepreneur, and you kind of, some things you just take as they come, right? And you take advantage of them as they come. And I think that's what it is for us too. So we have plans to do more. There's more activities opening up, more. I mean, even next month we have our first trade show, and it's going to be the first in-person trade show, in, over a year at this point. So that alone is a big deal for us as a company, just to get back out in that realm again. But yeah, I think it's going to be good for us overall. But I definitely think COVID has had an impact on, if COVID hadn't happened, we'd probably be in a totally different space right now. Whether for good or bad, it would be different.
Sure.
But obviously, hindsight doesn't really matter at this point. We are where we are. And we've been really pleased actually getting to where we are. And I think we have a lot of opportunity in front of us, COVID or no COVID, and we'll kind of take advantage of those as they come.
What a great attitude you have, and that spirit of, hey, whatever comes in front of us, we're going to overcome it and do what we have to, and be able to be meldable enough that we can take a left turn or a right turn where we need to, if we're throwing a curveball. You also make it a point of giving back from Boomerang Energy. And can you tell us a little bit about the philanthropy that Boomerang Energy started right from the get-go, and why that's so important?
Yeah, so I mean, right off the bat, when we very first day we started with our powder selling on Amazon, before we had made $1, we were making commitments to giving back a certain portion of our sales to different charities and organizations, and a lot of it came from just when we were working on the brand itself and what is Boomerang Energy and what is it going to be. Again, there was kind of that perception of there are a lot of energy drinks on the market, and a lot of them are kind of extreme and edgy. And it gives a certain persona even to the category. And so we said, we want to change that. We want to be an example that of an energy drink that can actually be good for you, but the brand itself can be considered wholesome and good. And so we wanted to, right from the get-go, be a brand that did more than make money, but actually had a positive impact, beyond our products and in people's lives. So yeah, we early on, we partnered with some different charities that were actually doing things in hospitals, to help kids with immune systems that, couldn't interact with people, have access to gaming equipment, stuff like that. And then once we kind of, shifted to start serving other demographics outside of gaming, we started to do more, with donations to different, outdoor foundations or charities. And actually we have 2 scholarships right now too at 2 of the universities in Duluth, at UMD and at Scholastica. And we have those, they're actually entrepreneur focused. So if there is a student in college there and they want to, after school, they have an entrepreneurial goal that they're trying to do, that's actually, the scholarships have more of a focus on kids with that kind of goal coming out of school, which there's not a whole lot centered around that. So it was kind of it was something that kind of having gone through the entrepreneurial stuff and realizing it is a hard road, and it's not for everyone. We thought, hey, this would be a great way to kind of try to give back and help anyone else who's trying to come down this path. So that was relatively recently that we did that. I want to say it was just last year. But again, the goal comes back to being a brand that's trying to be a positive brand overall, and actually, going beyond our products.
That's really interesting, because you talk about entrepreneurship and having the energy to do the things so many other people won't do, and to work nights and work weekends and do all the things that entrepreneurs sacrifice. And it firsthand from growing up in it, but it firsthand because you live it every day right now, about the sacrifices you give and the passion you have to have, and the energy. And I just find it very ironic, because you own Boomerang Energy as an entrepreneur. It goes hand in hand, and maybe it's a sweet thing, and all of us should have had that. Maybe I would have made a lot less mistakes in my life. And now let's segue into another business, talking about entrepreneurship. Donny and 2 of his brothers, Bobby and Michael, decide, hey, Donnie's like, you know what? This entrepreneurship isn't that tough. I might as well just go into another business here. And you guys buy budget blinds.
Yeah. So we, to kind of get the roadmap all the way there, we started Boomerang while I was still working with the company that my dad had started. So it was, I'm still getting a paycheck, but I'm working this on the side. And you're like you mentioned, we're bootstrapping it, right? So we're not making any money on it. It's just when you get home at night and after the kids go to bed and stuff, I mean, that's what you're working on. You're trying to keep those things, pushing them along. Now my dad's company actually ended up going through 2 different acquisitions. So by that point, Michael had left the company and actually gone over to Hong Kong to get his MBA. And my older brother, Bobby, and I were still working with what was now Stryker, so a Fortune 500 med tech company. and we were both kind of looking for the next thing, because we both had kids, young families, and with our roles at that company, the travel schedule was going to get a lot more intense. And thankfully, when my dad was still around, my role, especially after I got married and started having kids, they were able to kind of control my travel schedule a bit more and, tamper it down. But now it was going to ramp up again, to the point where you're gone, 25% of the time, which when you have young kids and stuff, it's not ideal. So we had people that we knew who were selling the local Budget Blinds franchise. And we said, all right, initially they just came looking for some advice on, how to sell the business. But we said, oh, why don't you tell us about the business? And it was, in the local community. It kept us in the area. And my dad had always told us business is people and process. So just because you were in the med tech space doesn't mean you can't go and, be a window covering supplier. So we actually made that transition over so that we could, be in our local community more, be around our families more. And also, to keep kind of income coming in so that we could sustain ourselves while we continued to build Boomerang. So it was, it's just kind of a, you somewhat burn the candle on both ends, but having a father who did the same thing was really good for us, because especially my older brother and I with young families, my dad said, you got to do what you got to do to make your businesses work. That's how you're supporting your family. But the biggest thing is when you're with your family, be present. So even if it's, if you work a long day and you get home and it's dinner time and you're dinner with your family, and then you're going to play with the kids and you put them to bed, be present at that time, be focused on them and be there for them. So that we had great advice from the start on kind of how do you balance these. And, because you're running one business, you're bootstrapping and trying to run another business. And honestly, I mean, it's not easy, right? I mean, I know there were periods I had massive weight loss just from stress, and I had no appetite, and I actually had to go see a doctor about it. And, just, it gets to you sometimes. So it's definitely not an easy path, but I would say, man, it helped having a dad who had gone through it all to give us that kind of insight and input and even encouragement. So, I honestly, I can't imagine what it would have been like without someone like that. So for the ones out there who did it without a dad along the way to, give them that, man, kudos to you.
Donnie, it's interesting because you talk about all those things and bootstrapping it and doing all that and going through, some health challenges because you're so stressed out and all those things. Yeah, I think the average person out there kind of thinks that entrepreneur is just getting fat, dumb, and happy, and they're like, right? We're sewing extra pockets on our pants just to put all the money in. It's right. And then you go have a conversation like you and I, as two entrepreneurs, are having. You're going, well, I guess if that's the way it is, I'm not a very good entrepreneur, because that's right. that's not the story I have.
Right.
So you're in the home blind business, the home window covering business with Budget Blinds. And I know we're probably sick of talking about COVID, but there's a huge impact that happened. Everyone was talking about lumber prices, and people were building homes and then saying, no, we need to put it on pause, or people right. were going to remodel their home and they put it on pause and all that. How were you impacted from that, I guess, negatively and or positively?
Yeah, it was interesting for us. And so Budget Blinds is a franchise, right? So we own a territory, right? We actually have 3 territories up here. And it's interesting because you kind of get to see, through other people, running other franchises, how those areas are going, how is COVID impacting them. And it's different. Obviously, anyone paying attention knows everything's handled very differently depending on where you live in the country, right? So in our area initially, and especially with our kind of, experience in the healthcare space and our connections there. Initially, there was a lot of kind of unknown, right? We just don't know. So let's err on the side of caution. There was a time where we actually, especially in our area, I mean, we would try to be very just customer focused, right? What makes our customers most comfortable? What can we do to make sure they're confident in what we're doing, so that we can take care of them? And we had a lot of people who, were canceling initially. Just saying, hey, because we do in-home consultations. That's our big thing. There's no cost to it. We come in, bring product, we look at the windows with you, we talk through the uses, and kind of help you find something that fits, your whatever price range you're looking at and whatever function you need out of them. So it was a bit of adjusting. We started to do some virtual consultations. It doesn't always work great. You can try it, but for certain people, especially for some it works, for some it doesn't. So we try to be really conscious of that and really stay customer focused. So we do whatever the customer, whatever made them most comfortable, using PPE properly, stuff like that, making sure we were sanitizing, just trying to do whatever we could to make the customer feel comfortable at the time. And initially it was 2020 was slower year for us, actually, because we ended up, we did have team members catch COVID early on. And, so we're quarantining and making sure that everyone's healthy before, anyone's going out on a job or anything like that. So we did lose quite a bit of time. And even we took some time off at one point just to try to figure out what's going on. And we would still do some commercial work during that time because, if people are putting up, office buildings, apartment buildings, stuff like that, and there's really no one there, it's pretty easy to go in by yourself and do what you need to do to measure and, for quoting purposes and stuff like that. So we functioned as well as we could. But 2020 was a below average year for us. But then last year was actually our biggest year ever. So it's odd, honestly. And it's kind of, I think it's somewhat unpredictable. I mean, like you mentioned lumber prices and stuff. And obviously we know that was crazy for a while, but there were a ton of people still building. So we honestly, we tried to take it day by day, make sure we're doing right by the customer. Our big thing is communication. We try to communicate really well with people. There's, supply chain delays and stuff with products like ours too. And our big thing was we told people, hey, there are just some unknowns right now, but we'll be available and we'll give you updates along the way. And if you have concerns, let us know. And our big kind of value add that we tell people is we always bring it to a resolution. There's been times where products broken in transit or, something hasn't turned out right, but we always work through it with the customer to make sure they're happy at the end. So that was our big thing was, hey, let's stay customer focused. Let's make sure we're doing what we can to keep them comfortable and take it day by day. And honestly, that mentality got us through a little slower year in 2020 to have our biggest year ever last year.
Congratulations. That's really awesome. And folks, I can tell you, I have seen some of the product and some of the work that the Pearson brothers do at Budget Blinds, and it's utterly amazing. And the technology, we don't really think about technology when you're thinking about window coverings, but I'm telling you the technology that you don't have to even be there. The blinds go up and down automatically at the time you've set them to do, or you have your remote and you sit in your chair and you hit it and the blinds open or the blinds close. Literally amazing. And they look awesome.
It's come a long way. It really has, the technology portion for sure.
Holy catfish. I remember when air conditioning was open the window, and now we have automated blinds. It's really cool. And so again, if you're in the area up here in Minnesota and you're listening to this and you want to see and talk to some fellas that are very customer centric and you're looking at window coverings for your house, you need to start with Budget Blinds and the Pearson brothers. They do some absolutely amazing work. And we're going to come back around to Boomerang Energy in a minute here, Donnie. But let's talk about just entrepreneurship. I know we've talked about your father and some of those things instilled in you. But now you as a young professional are a serial entrepreneur. You've learned so many lessons. What advice could you give to young students today? Maybe some of these kids who are getting these scholarships or whatever you know that you're giving back to the colleges now, that you would say, this is some advice that you need to hear, and you need to hear it from an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think I think people hear this a lot, but you do need to get used to hearing no, and you kind of have to have. My dad has used the term grit. I guess I prefer a more elegant term, perseverance. That's what it takes. You got to be durable. You're gonna get told no a ton. You're gonna get told your idea is dumb. You're gonna get told it's never gonna work. And you'll have everyone in the world. You'll have family members telling you stuff like that, right? And so it takes some determination and some conviction on your part. I think that you actually have something that you believe in, and that you actually, I think that authenticity really does come through. And if you're just coming out with something and you don't truly believe in the product or what it brings, I think that's a challenge because you're not going to stick by it. So when it comes to ideas and making sure it's really something that you're passionate about, I think that's important. But there's also a balance to that, because like we talked about with being flexible and agile with what comes at you, you also can't be so fixed in your passion project that you can't interpret industry trends or market trends or be open to things that maybe didn't fit what you thought at the start. So I would never lean too hard one way or the other. You need to believe in what you're doing, but you do also have to be open to the opportunity that maybe you're a little off on it, and when it comes along, you got to be open to to adapting. So I think that's big, that having that passion, but also that adaptability.
Donnie, that is really good advice. In fact, I tell people around me and I the universities in the area here, I'm able to go and talk with a lot of students now and classes, and what you just gave is some stellar advice. And you started with that, get used to the word no. And I always took the word no as no doesn't mean no forever.
Not now. Yeah.
Not now.
Yep.
And I just haven't done all of my work I need to do. And I need to learn more from you, Mr. Customer, or whatever it may be. I need to learn more from you. I need to do more homework, because no means, like you just said, not now. And that's really important, because it's very easy to hear no 10 times in one day and just want to fold up camp and say, well, that was a bad idea. This is a bad company. That's, it's never going to work. And I always say never, because you will be surprised as you build relationships. And usually you'll hear no from people that you don't have relationships with. And we're all in the relationship business. And when you build those relationships, people learn to trust you. And it's a lot easier to do business with people you trust and know than it is somebody you just met. And they're like, oh my goodness, where have you been my whole life?
Right. And that perseverance I talked about, I think is key, because entrepreneurship is a long game. And we talk about this a lot in our space, because there's certain brands that pop up and all of a sudden you hear from people, oh man, they came out of nowhere. It's like, they didn't come out of nowhere. You just weren't there the last 10 years. Literally it takes a long time. And that's why nothing just pops out of nowhere. It takes a lot of work. We incorporated 6 years ago. We're not profitable yet. We're still chasing profitability, but the average company doesn't reach it for at least 7 years. And it's only 1 in 7 that actually makes it. So the odds aren't with you, they're against you. And so you are going to need that perseverance and that, passion to get through stuff like that, and to be able to say, no, I do think I have something. And it may be a not now, but everything's sick. It's a cycle, right? It's circular. It'll come back around, and you just improve yourself so you're ready when it comes around the next time.
Boy, I'll tell you, for a young entrepreneur, you are light years ahead of your time, my friend. You've had some great lessons, and we wish you the best, and your brothers and all of your companies. So we've been talking with Donny Pearson, founder of Boomerang Energy. Everybody needs to go see it. Donny, give us the handles for all of the social, all of your websites. Let's start with Boomerang Energy.
Yeah, so it's at Boomerang Energy for everything, whether it's we're on Pinterest, we're on Instagram, Facebook. Those are kind of our main three. So at Boomerang Energy, you'll find us. Boomerangenergy.com. You can go on there if you're interested in actually buying the product. We're launching on Vitacost, on Vitacost website, which is a big one. That's Kroger's website, and it's going to be big for us to show Kroger what kind of audience we have on there. So if you're interested in follow us on social media, we'll let you know as soon as that's available to buy on there. And then Budget Blinds, we're Budget Blinds of Duluth. So if you ever got to clarify that, you want to put it in as Budget Blinds of Duluth, and you'll find us on Instagram, on Facebook, or just our Google My Business listing has a lot of good stuff on there.
That is awesome. And tell us other stores where people can buy Boomerang Energy.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in the Minnesota, the Duluth area. I mean, we're at, great local places like Duluth's Best Bread and Corktown Deli. We're at the both of the co-ops in Duluth. So if you're around here, drop into one of those places. They've got individual cans for sale if you want to give it a try. And they're great local partners, so you're supporting those local businesses as well.
And we're certainly looking forward to seeing you at some events, hopefully outdoors this summer as things continue to open up. And one other place that they can find you, Donny, is from August 31st of 2020, the Duluth Pack report, the Duluth Pack blog interviewed you, and it was posted on August 31st of 2020.
Yep.
So we've had a good relationship for a while here.
We have.
We're going to take a quick turn of events here where we're going to what's called the Packed Question segment, Donny, to just deep dive on you personally a little bit. Tell us your favorite movie of all times.
Oh, yeah. So I love movies. Actually, I love older movies from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. I think that was which is funny because I was, born long after that. But I really appreciate a lot of stuff from that time. But I'll say kind of overall quality of story and cinematography, I think The Godfather is a classic. I think a lot of people would point to that as, that's kind of one of those, you got to see it.
That's a good one. Best piece of life advice you have ever received?
So this one, I think it's not even just received, but I've kind of just talking this over with other people in my life. I think a lot of people hear the phrase, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I don't know that that's totally true. Honestly, I changed a little bit. I think that you should do what you do for the ones you love. And keeping that in mind, because, on your deathbed, no one looks back and wishes they worked more or made more money or had more things. Usually what you look back on and is time and people. And so, invest in those things.
Family.
Right.
Hallelujah. Something on your bucket list. You're a pretty young guy yet, so this isn't like you're talking to me at the end of my career. Something on your bucket list that you haven't done yet, but it's like that I am striving to do.
I haven't done an Alaska experience yet, and I love the mountains. I love the sea. I like kind of the wild bits of the world that are still left. So it's kind of a broader category, I'd say, but I'd like to get up to Alaska at some point and experience that state.
At my age, I've been very, very fortunate and blessed where I have, and do it because you will not regret it. It is so beautiful. And let's end with, what's your favorite band or your favorite musician of all times?
Yeah, I think this is the toughest one for me. I love music of all kinds. I mean, you'll have Elvis is a classic. I like the old country, like Loretta Lynn era stuff, or George Strait type classics. But then again, I like Buddy Holly and stuff from that period. I also love classical music. I love Tchaikovsky, stuff like that. I mean, I'm all over the board. It depends on the day. So honestly, I probably can't narrow it down to one, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I think music we're definitely made in a way that music affects us greatly, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And if that was the most difficult question for you to answer today, you have a great career ahead of you, my friend. Folks, we have been blessed today to have Donny Pearson, founder of Boomerang Energy. You all need to go get some and support this local entrepreneur and his company. And also owner with his brothers of Budget Blinds of Duluth, where talk about window coverings. You can open your eyes to a whole new world instead of just pulling down shades that maybe some of us were used to for most of our lives. Support these entrepreneurs, support these local companies, and they will support you back. And we have an entrepreneur he and his companies are very customer-centric, customer-focused, and we don't get that enough these days. So Donny, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. You've done a great job with us today, and we wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. And folks, until next time, unplug from the indoors and recharge in the outdoors while you're having a Boomerang energy drink.